Good evening. I'm Darlene Coquerel, also known as the Queen of Foreclosures. I've been in the business since 1991. In the beginning, it took me over a year to get my first deal purchased. And I just kept making offers and offers and couldn't get them accepted. And finally, I ended up buying a HUD duplex in Lawrenceville, Georgia. And that was my first property, but it took me a year to get it done. And that was stage 3 of foreclosures. That's what we call REOs, real estate owned, bank real estate owned. So those are my first one. My next one was a VA foreclosure, also an REO, bank owned property. What that means is that property went through stage 1, which is pre-foreclosure, stage 2, which is foreclosure, and then stage 3, which is post-foreclosure REO. In stage 1, pre-foreclosure, the owner is the borrower. The bank has a cloud on the title, if you will. The bank has a mortgage, the bank has a loan, the bank has a lien on the title. And so when the borrower becomes defaulted, where they're not paying their mortgage on time anymore, that's when it moves into going from pre-foreclosure to stage 2. And stage 2 is the legal closure. It's the process whereby the lender becomes the owner of the property. So in non-judicial states, they have to file a lawsuit and they have to sue the borrower to get the property back. That's in judicial states. In non-judicial states, they have to advertise the property 4 consecutive weeks in the public newspaper, and then they do a public outcry or an auction on the courthouse steps. So I'm in Georgia. Texas and Georgia are twins when it comes to the foreclosure process. Other states, some states have both judicial and non-judicial process. So to find out what your state does, you could easily Google foreclosure process in New Jersey, foreclosure process in Florida, wherever it is that you guys are. And so anyway, so in the early 90s, I bought a HUD foreclosure, and then I bought a VA foreclosure, and then I bought 4 townhomes in the same neighborhood from the savings and loan collapse. There was a temporary organization put together called the RTC, the Resolution Trust Corp. And that was put together to help bail out the savings and loans. So anyway, I bought one in that neighborhood, got a phone call, and they asked me if I wanted to buy another one and another one and another one. So my first one was 40,000. My next 2 were 45. My last one was 50,000. Exact same floor plans, but time passed, things change. And I always say that things change. Time changes things in real estate. So you guys get some pencil and paper. I got a lot of great stuff to share. REOs, again, is one of my favorite, or real estate foreclosure auctions, my favorite ways of purchasing real estate. Unfortunately, because of the moratorium, there's a big kink in that pipeline. And so those foreclosures have not been coming through the pipeline. So I'm going to show you here what I was just mentioning, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. So when I first started in the business, stage 3 was REOs. There were lots of REOs out there. You could bid on them all the time. It was just difficult still to get the offers accepted. And then as time changes, as we moved closer to the recession in 2008, it became a really big business to go to the steps and buy foreclosures at the steps. It became, it was wide open in 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Lots of foreclosures going on in that 10-year period. So there's a lot of similarities right now, and there's a lot of differences between what's getting ready to happen in the next, I'd say, 5 or 6 years, and what has happened after 2007 and 2008 recession. In 2009, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, those are so many foreclosures, but we also saw the values drop. And now we're at the top of the market with pricing in a lot of areas, and that's going to stay. Unless you're losing population in your state, unless your area people are leaving like in droves. If they're leaving and your population is going down and your job market is bad, then your values are going to suffer. In Atlanta, Georgia, I personally believe we're in for another population surge. I think we're going to have another large number of people moving into Georgia. You know, we're seeing the Northeast metropolitan areas, the Midwest, the West, people fleeing. They don't want to be in the overpopulated cities, you know, because of the pandemic. Our cost of living is still pretty much lower than a lot of the other major metropolitan areas. So it depends on what's going on in population. It depends on your unemployment rate as to what's going to really happen with your values. Like I said, please use the chat box and interact with me if you've got questions, comments to share with others. Today, we're going to focus on post foreclosures, but I do want to talk about the 3 stages of foreclosure. So in pre-foreclosure, you see what I wrote here? You are buying directly from the homeowner. We use a process called, we like to do subject to purchases. My first question, I'm a flipper. You know, I mentioned my first few years in the business and I bought a lot of REOs, and then in the early 90s, mid 90s, I learned subject to, I learned creative financing. By the time I got to about 95, 96, I didn't qualify for loans anymore. Could only get so many as investment properties at the time. And so I had to learn how to buy them differently. And so I got into working pre-foreclosures in the mid 90s and just dealing directly with the homeowner and learning the subject to process, where you could take over somebody's loan, but the property is signed over to you and you own the property. So I've been doing pre-foreclosures ever since. When the foreclosure floodgates opened a decade ago, I stopped doing pre-foreclosures. I didn't have to chase them down anymore because we had so much foreclosure inventory. So I stopped doing pre-foreclosures from about 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Somewhere between the beginning of 2018 and the end, I had to get back to pre-foreclosures again. I couldn't compete with the crazy prices that the hedge funds were buying foreclosures for. So it's back to basics. And right now, buying direct from the owner, direct from seller, is a good way to find your leads. Until that tsunami comes back through with foreclosures, and I believe it is, they're not going to go away. I'll quote you some numbers here in a minute, or just generically speaking. You know, I said moratoriums, forbearance, and foreclosures. Oh my, moratorium on foreclosures is one huge ocean of property addresses. And that huge ocean, 2 million, 3 million, were in default. So the forbearance moratorium was for properties in default. The forbearance, I said foreclosure moratorium, for the forbearance, that big ocean that was about 5 million down to about 2 million in forbearance currently, those were properties that were current. And the bank, the government, and the borrower got together and everybody said, hey, I'm affected adversely by the pandemic. Can I please stop making my payment, but not get a credit hit? So there's at least 2 million left in forbearance, and those are ending. Those are ending as we speak. And they will end all the way until the end of March next year. So that went on for 24 months. So March. So it'll be 24 months that the forbearance had begun, was in place, got an extension and an extension and another extension. So forbearance will end all the way between now and the end of March 2022. What happens after the forbearance ends? Again, those were properties that were current. But as we form habits, good or bad, it's hard to break those habits. So people have formed the habit of not paying their mortgage payment for 18 months. Some of those folks have had medical issues. Some of those folks have had economic issues. Some have lost loved ones. Some have gone through life's changes, divorces, relocation, everything. So that ocean of 2 million properties, some of those are going to go into foreclosure. The moratorium on foreclosures, all of those are going to go into foreclosure. Now things happen. And so it doesn't matter to me as the queen of foreclosures. It doesn't matter to me where we are in the stage of the pipeline is open, the pipeline is closed, the tsunami is here, it's not here. Inventory is low, inventory is high. The only thing that matters to me is whether I'm working primarily in stage 1, stage 2, or stage 3. There are times that I work in all 3 stages. So right now, I have been working pre-foreclosures primarily for the last couple of years, and we're doing pretty good. We get a couple wholesale deals, assignments, some fix and flips, some couple good buy and holds. So even though the numbers are extremely low in the number of foreclosures out there, we're still getting deals done. So you don't stop, you just keep on keeping on. I am transitioning into building my auction team again. And the reason for that right now, I'm just going to say Georgia. Georgia has 159 counties. We have a huge population. Back in the heyday, at the top of foreclosures, we led the country. Gwinnett County was one of the top counties in the country with number of foreclosures. DeKalb County, Fulton County, Cobb County. They were some of the top counties with the number of foreclosures. At one point, we had in the state of Georgia, we had over 200,000 foreclosures in 1 year. Last year, 2020, the COVID year, pandemic year, we had around 10,000, 11,000. This year, it's going to be about the same. We're not going to have more than 10,000 foreclosures this year. If I go back 20 years, right, just organically back 20 years ago, this is where we were. We were around the same numbers. And it went from 2000, the year 2000, to the year 2010. It took a decade. It just climbed that mountain until it got to 200,000 in a year. And then from 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, we got to 2018, and I think we were just over 25,000 to 28,000 in the whole state of Georgia, from 200,000 down to 25,000. And then 2019, a little bit lower, somewhere between 20, 25,000. And now we're way down at the bottom. So, Darlene, what does that mean? 2020, 2021, we're going to start going back up in 2022, even though the moratorium is ending or has ended in some cases, lenders are still not foreclosing as they could. So it's going to be, in my opinion, after spring 2022, that we're going to start seeing the lenders really open the gates. And these are the insured loans. These are your, first-time home buyers. These are your loans that have 0 to 5% down payments. Those are the ones that are in the moratorium that are just sitting here waiting to fall out. Now, what's changed? One of the things that have changed in the last decade is Wall Street. Wall Street has always invested, for the longest time, they've always invested in multifamily, and they knew how to control 30,000 doors across the country, 300,000 doors across the country. They spent the last decade learning how to do that with single family homes. So in 2007, 8, 9, 10, I was not competing with the hedge funds. 2012, 13 and on, those guys were getting their groundwork. They're getting their foundation built, getting their feet wet and learning how to make single family homes a new asset class. So they're here to stay, in my opinion. They're not going anywhere. They're different than we are. We have local investors, we have out-of-state investors, we have overseas investors, and then we have Wall Street investors. And those are just each different category of how investors think. The hedge funds, they are buying houses and basically paying cash, and they're getting their money. They're getting loans at 0 to 1% interest rate. We can't compete with those numbers, number one. Number two, they're deploying billions of dollars into their rental portfolios, their income producing portfolios. And so their cap rate or their return on investment, again, is somewhere between 0 and 4%. I try not to go below 8% on my cap rate. So once again, I can't compete with those numbers, right? All of this to say, even though I really believe the foreclosure tsunami is coming, we have to compete with all these cash buyers, these big cash buyers that aren't looking for a 10% return or 15% return as we are, even on my flips. So that's something to contend with. Let's see, what are your thoughts on the end of the moratorium and what will happen with the foreclosure market? So there's some things that happen. I say we're not going to see it on the streets. There's things that have happened in the past and things that will happen again. A lot of folks, if you've been around real estate investing long enough, you've heard of shadow inventory. And people say, what happened to the shadow inventory? And is there going to be shadow inventory now? I'm just going to give you Darlene's, the world according to Darlene, right? In terms of real estate foreclosures. It's what I call above the clouds, right? There's things that are going to happen above the clouds that we never see on the ground. And what that is times when one entity that has a portfolio of non-performing assets, also known as defaulted mortgages, that entity now is selling that to another entity. And so now it changes hands up here. And sometimes those never drop out into the ground level. Sometimes those, they work out, they call deed in lieu of foreclosure with the homeowner. Sometimes they do their relocation assistance, their cash for keys, and they make workouts happen, et cetera, et cetera. So the foreclosures will happen in a lot of cases. Some that don't are going on above the clouds and we never see them. What falls through, you have to be able to compete, whether you're buying at the steps or you're buying in post foreclosure mode. But if you do your homework and you do enough of what you do, it will pay off. I'm just now starting my REOs back up. I'm just now starting my auction team back up. I'm not ready to go back to the steps until right now in Georgia, there's less than 600 foreclosures right now a month. And it's been like that for a year and a half, less than 600 a month. One county, Gwinnett County, used to have 2,000 to 3,000 alone in a month at the height of the market. So what's sitting on the sidelines are all those FHA, VA, Fannie Mae, and Freddie Mac properties. In pre-foreclosure, you could look at that as off market. Now, there's a lot of people out there competing for that. A lot of door knockers, a lot of investors that are doing direct mail, cold calling, all different ways, Facebook, social media, all different ways to reach those direct to seller leads. But that's what we do, is we start with pre-foreclosure. It's the same list, the foreclosure list, the pre-foreclosure list, it's all the same. So getting your list is first. Each state is a little bit different. Like I said, you got to know your state's laws and where to find your leads, if you will, for that particular state. Today is about post foreclosures, buying directly from the bank. So I'm going to give you some, just some processes, if you will. I'm preparing now. And then I believe that within the next, let's see, 6 months from now, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May. So I'm really looking at about 10 months from now. I want to see the spring market come and go, because spring market's a pretty strong market when it comes to real estate. A lot of people buy and sell in spring. I want to see the spring market come and go. And then I think we're going to start seeing the numbers in foreclosures double, right? Right now we're at an all-time low. And until the banks, the big four, the big five, are saying, even though the moratorium is ending, we are still not going to foreclose before 2022. Understand that they're in the money business. They have to foreclose eventually. Extending moratoriums is very irritating to me. Again, I don't think it's the right thing to do. And one of the reasons I say that is a moratorium on foreclosure, again, is against somebody who already has a defaulted loan. So they have defaulted loan and you're giving them a lot more months just to stay in the property. It's kind of like rewarding bad behavior. So that's the reason I don't like the extension on the moratoriums. So when is that really going to happen? It's not going to start really big, I think, until after spring 2022, and then it begins. And then from there, I'm preparing so that I'm looking at summer, fall, winter of 2022 to be the beginning of getting back into stage 2 and stage 3 foreclosures. So stage 3 is much easier to get in. The best way to watch REOs or bank-owned properties, they go into default, the bank forecloses, and they don't sell them at the steps, or they don't sell them in the inside the courtroom. It goes back to the bank. Once it goes back to the bank, it becomes an REO. Once it becomes an REO, it's typically sold on an online platform after it goes back in stage 3. So you have online auctions. These are the ones that we primarily use: auction.com, HUD Home Store. Those are the FHA properties that get foreclosed. Homepath.com is the Fannie Mae properties that get foreclosed. Home Steps are Freddie Mac's. Hudson and Marshall, Zome.com, Hubzu.com. Those are a lot of private lender. They're institutional lenders, but some of those are uninsured conventional loans, for example. So these are the websites, these are the platforms that when we're running on all cylinders, basically we're signing up for every one of these. Let me just say that I took a zip code 30032 as an example. I just want to concentrate on the 32 zip code of Decatur, Georgia, right? So I'm just going to take that zip code. I'm going to get my pre-foreclosures. I'm going to get my probate. I'm going to get my for sale by owners, my expired listings, my properties that went back on the market, my fire damage houses I find out in the neighborhoods, whatever. I'm going to take that and I'm going to saturate that market. I'm going to look at everything. And then I'm going to go to all of these websites and I'm going to pull, same thing, I'm going to pull that zip code. And then I'm going to take my calendar, right? And I want to put these auctions on my calendar. I need to know the start date and I need to know the end date of the auction. Is the most important thing is the end date, but I got to register for the auction. Some of these you're going to have to put a hold on a credit card. Some of these you don't have to do anything. HUD Home Store, that's one of the easiest ones to work. You do have to have a HUD certified broker. If you're in Georgia, my team is. But basically somebody has to submit the offers for you, but you want to watch it. A lot of these insured lenders, insured type of loans, like on HUD, Fannie, and Freddie, there are like a 2-week first look period. So as a real estate investor, we cannot look when it first comes in, but that's why you want to mark your calendars also. And when you go to these auctions, it's kind of strange. Most properties don't go once. A lot of times they come back around again and again. So I like to use the snipping tool or the Microsoft snippet. And I do screenshots at the end of the auction. You need to just keep really good records of follow-up because most of your offers are not going to get accepted the first time. Most of the auctions don't close the first time. They come back again and again. I say that time changes things in real estate. When it comes to REOs, the banks, the lenders, you know, the folks with the money, they're driven by quarters: first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, the end of a fiscal year. So let's say today is August, April, May, June, July, August, September. We're in the middle of Q3. So right now, the bank may not be making an aggressive decision, but by the end of Q3, they may say, I need to get these off my books. Just go ahead and take the best offer you can get. So they might have gone for 3 quarters or 2.5 quarters and said, can't go below this reserve, can't go below this reserve. And at the end of that 3rd quarter or at the end of the 4th quarter, all of a sudden they come back and they're, bam, you bought that house for $12,000 or $22,000 less than you got outbid before. So that's it's an important technique when it comes to working these. When you snip it, what does that mean? So it's a screenshot. So old school, you can just hit your, I don't know if it's Control Alt or whatever, print screen, but I take a screenshot. Like for example, if I'm in a seminar like this, I'm going to get my snipping tool. I just did it here, and I'm going to take it and I'm going to just say, whoop. It just takes a screenshot of whatever's on my screen. So when I'm playing auction, I'll take screenshots, and I have property folders. So in on my one of my hard drives, it says properties, and on my properties, I list them complete. 123 Main Street, Decatur, Georgia, DeKalb. And so I know that if I'm looking for 123 Main Street, there it is. Then I take my snippets and I drop it in there under acquisition. So I have my acquisition, I have my pictures, I have my contract to closing, I have my disposition, when I'm going to buy it, when I'm going to sell it. I have my bookkeeping, I have my renovation folders, my rehab folders. So I create my property folder, and then when I'm in acquisition mode, and by the way, I take everything I'm working and I put them in spreadsheets. I'll show you a spreadsheet in a minute. So if I take all my foreclosure leads, throw them in a spreadsheet, I do my analysis that way. And I'll show you some of that in a second. And so once I do my analysis, it's all there. And now I know, I write down things. These are the magic words, right? I'm going to put them in the chat box. Who knows what this means? Mayo, ARV. Those are the two words I'm looking for. What's my Mayo? What's my ARV? And I have a rehab grid. My rehab grid, these are my three main things, right? I need to know my ARV is my after repaired value, also known as fair market value. If the property was brought to today's standards, what's that property worth? And then my rehab grid, it's on my wall right there. If it's built before 1970 and it's more than 2,500 square feet, I've got $90,000 on my rehab grid. If it's built 2010 or newer, and it's less than 2,500 square feet, I'm putting $10,000 on my rehab grid. I'm just going to clean it up. I don't have to do any of my systems. I don't have to do my roof. It's built in 2012, right? Those kind of things. 1990 to 1999, it's less than 1,500 square feet, 30,000 is on my rehab grid. That's how I run my preliminary analysis. Very good, very good. Thanks, Dana. Mayo is maximum allowable offer. So I build my formula, and with my formula, I can do my preliminary analysis so that then when I'm doing all of my snippets, when I'm doing all of my spreadsheets, when I'm looking at all of these auction websites, I'm looking at what's the opening bid, what's my Mayo, what's my maximum allowable offer based on my formula. And the formula is a flip is one formula, buy and hold is one formula. So depending on what your exit strategy is as to how you do this. So I'm going and I'm looking at my Mayo and I go, oh my gosh, there's like 17 properties in 30032 that the opening bid is lower than my Mayo. I'm bidding on every one of those properties. Now you want to go drive them, make sure the house is still standing. When you do this kind of real estate auctions, most of the time you don't get to go in the house. That's why I have a rehab grid. We've rehabbed thousands of properties. We bought thousands at foreclosure auctions and rehabbed them. And I developed a grid over the last decade, and it's based on size and it's based on year built. Now, is it going to be 100% accurate? Absolutely not. But that's my preliminary. I just need to get in the game. Anybody that knows me, you'll hear me say, make more offers, see less houses. You got to make a bunch of offers, right? So this is where I start. This is what I'm saying. I'm building my auction team back up again because I'm suspecting within 9 months, I'm going to start winning bids just on the REO, just on stage 3. So get familiar with these. Auction.com is amazing. You can go to the courthouse steps in Georgia. You can check auction.com in your area. They're all over the country. And they're very, very investor friendly. I used to teach on their stages for them. They want you to learn. They want to be helpful. They have a concierge, you know, they want to help you because they're auctioneers. They sell stuff for more money. They make more money. So auction.com is a great investor friendly foreclosure website for you guys to look at. HUD Home Store, is really good. HUD Home Store, again, is only FHA loans being foreclosed. The thing I like about HUD is they will only charge, you only have to bring $500 or $1,000 as earnest money. Auction.com, you have to have a credit card that you can freeze $2,500 on your credit card to register for their auction. So, that's one thing. HUD Home Store, Fannie Mae, Home Path, Home Steps. Again, keep in mind those, you got to learn the rules. So look at the FAQs and learn what the first look period is. If you have a nonprofit organization and your nonprofit is buying real estate, you qualify for the first look. The rest of us investors don't. If you're a uniform, it's called the uniform next door, like teachers or police officers. Some of them have programs. You know, they have like $100 down special program, and so on and so forth. People call it house hacking. If you want to move into your next house, one of these HUD Home Store, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac are a fantastic way to look at a house, because guess what? Investors can't compete with you in the first 2 weeks. You get to bid on the property against other homeowners. So if you don't mind doing some renovations and you can figure out how to get the money to buy a house for you to move into, and you do the renovations, HUD, Home Path, and Home Steps is a good way for you to go. Hudson and Marshall Zone, we already talked about those. So just get familiar with all those. I forgot, we only have an hour. Foreclosure list. So this is a sample, like this is a live foreclosure list right now. I color coded it. It comes out in black and white. And when I get the list, I start making colors. So red is, it's just like we learned in school: green light, yellow light, red light, stop. So green is go, yellow is proceed with caution, and red is red flag number 1, red flag number 2. So when I have 3 red flags, I typically don't do a deal. But the green over here on my left, this is my coding. And my green is I'm marketing to these people. And so that's what I do, is I market to everything that I turn green. You don't see any reds here on the address, but you can see the tax value, the purchase price, when they bought it, what the year built, the mortgage that's being foreclosed on, the foreclosing attorney, DeKalb County. So these are DeKalb's, and then square foot, year built, square foot, bed bath, lot size. There's a lot more on this spreadsheet. But this is what I do. No matter where I'm going to be bidding, is I want to download, I want to export a list into a spreadsheet like this. Sometimes it's a manual process. Sometimes I'm digging up bed bath, square foot, year built. Sometimes I'm digging up what's the mortgage amount. I like to know things. I like to make smart offers. So the more I know, the smarter my offers are. You can see over here where it says under 2021, you see the red ARM, and second mortgage. So I need to look down here at this one here, 1871 Taffeta Trail in Lithonia. That one, that's a second mortgage for $11,000 that's being foreclosed. If you didn't do your homework, you would think you're buying a house for $11,000, but you owe the first mortgage if you buy the second at the steps. So those kind of things. So again, this list, this is my pre-foreclosure, my foreclosure, and it's the basis of my post-foreclosure list. So you have to, where do you get your list? How do you work your list? EquityDepot.net. So in Georgia, EquityDepot.net is my favorite list provider. Some of you guys may know Gordon Katz, some of you don't. Gordon Katz, we call him the Grand Poobah of real estate. He's been around for a long time. He helped put together a lot of the national REIA, some local REIAs. But anyway, I buy my list for the entire state of Georgia every month and have done it for years and years and years. And I buy, but anyway, if you go on their website, it's not cheap, but you could get a discount if you use Gordon's discount here, ED454. All caps, ED454. So if you're buying a list, you could buy it by the county, you could buy it by the territory. That's one thing you can do. We also, if you want to give it a try and you want to work Georgia foreclosure leads, whether you want to do pre-foreclosure or what have you, you could scan this QR code. You could take my link right here. Let me see if I can get it in there. Control C. I'm putting it in here. So you could take this link and you could go and this is what you'll get, what's in the middle. Request your Georgia foreclosure leads. Nationally, another one is foreclosure.com. They do leads around the country. Realty Track, I think Prop Stream. These are all investor tools. They do leads. But anyway, so this list that I work is initially I'm purchasing it from the list provider, which is Equity Depot. And then I go in and we add our other fields. So we start doing analysis on it. Once you get out there and you start doing the business and you go, oh my gosh, I'm just too new. I found one. I don't know what to do. We'll help you with deal analysis. If you want, you can go to my website. It's ultimateforeclosureformula.com. And you'll see at the top where it says investor resources, submit a potential deal. And then you just go there. Oops, sorry, I wasn't on the right screen. There it is. We'll help you with deal analysis. And just like I created for my own spreadsheets, we created so that if you go on there and you put in enough data, it'll spit out a preliminary analysis. You'll have your ARV, you'll have your Mayo. And this is where my students get caught up. It's called, right, paralysis of analysis. We get into over-analyzing and never pull a trigger. You know, I want you to pull triggers. I want you to make offers. You got to know how to do it and protect yourself. But that's what we do, is we make a lot of offers and most of them fall. Every now and then we get a couple accepted. But again, so this is what we do. Go to Ultimate Foreclosure Formula, click on Investor Resources, or just scan the code and submit a potential deal. So you put your data in there, and then once I get it, basically you get something like this back, right? Here's the new potential lead. Give me a second. And there's the address. What's the situation? This was driving for dollars, D4D, driving for dollars, and then vacant, winterized, can't find it anywhere in the system. It's vacant. What's my acquisition strategy? I don't know. What's my exit strategy? I can fix and flip it. I can buy and hold. I could joint venture this one. I don't have a seller's asking price because I just found it. You know, we were driving and it was driving for dollars. We have to skip trace it and find the person, and so on and so forth. So the more information you give, your ARV could be your Zillow estimate. It could be realtor.com estimate. It could be PropStream's estimate. It could be a CMA from you or your realtor. There's my proposed budget in there. So I've got the preliminary underwriting, and then I sometimes will do my secondary review to add additional information. So this is what it kicks out. You see the cash Mayo based on the Zestimate and Doris Rehab, or then there's the cash Mayo based on my additional underwriting. So my original Mayo was 119, but when I went into further detail, you know, I came up with an extra 10,000 that I could pay for that property. And that's just, you know what I mean? It's just tools to get started. You know, it's a tough business. And this is just a look into it. Come in every once a month, look into 3 stages of foreclosure. When we get here, I can't talk about a whole lot in terms of where do we spend our time in 1 hour or less. Somebody asked my auction team, who's on it? Is your contractor list part of it? So my auction team, first of all, I work all over. I work a lot of areas. I've been in and out of the state of Georgia, presently mostly in Georgia, and I work a lot of territory. We just did one in LaGrange. We did one in Macon. We did one in Warner Robins, Douglasville, and on, Stockbridge. So my contractors, it's tough on the contractors. My contractors won't go everywhere. So I've got to be able every time, like Warner Robins, I got to start just like you guys. Who's my boots on the ground down there? So depending on where I am tells me whether or not I'm going to, my exit strategy is going to be, I will wholesale, or I will do a fix and flip, or I will do a buy and hold. So if it's too far from home, I'm not going to do a fix and flip unless I know the market well enough and I know that I could get a strong appraisal in that market. So I do a lot of virtual stuff. My auction team is going to be drivers. I need drivers. So once the foreclosure tsunami opens up, once the list opens up again, in order, like if I go back and look at my, give me 1 second, let me do this. Let's see here. Give me a second here. Whoops. Like if I'm looking at my list here, all of these green, they have to be driven, right? So how many are on the list here? Like 5, 10, 15, 20 on the list. I got to create a route. We like to do routes in MapQuest Route Planner. You can have 26 stops is the maximum on your route. And that's a pretty decent day though. And so we're looking for people that will go out and give me pictures back. In a lot of cases, they're just exterior. So we'll take exterior picture, take a picture of the street number, whether it's on the mailbox, the curb, or the house. Take a number of the street picture, step back, take a picture of the whole house, up the street, down the street, any adverse situations I need to be aware of. Am I on a main street? We bought one time. My guys took pictures, but they never told me that there was a big old white X on the street in front of the house, and it had an R and an R. You know what that means, right? If there's a big square with a white X in front of your house, the railroad track, the railroad crossing is right there. So we bought the house not knowing that. It's really important to know that. Getting inside the house is tough these days. Buying properties with occupants is super tough these days. You know, where is the auction? Where's the eviction moratorium right now? Unfortunately, you need legal counsel. Unfortunately, you need a lot more legal assistance now than we've ever needed before in getting people out. So you got to build into your formula. We build in $2,250 into our formula, $2,200 for cash for keys. You know, one of the things when we get a driver out there, if they can get in the house, that's great. If they can't, I need to know if you think the house is vacant or occupied. When you drive for dollars, so let's say, for example, again, DeKalb is one of my territories. Let's say that I'm trying to really, I'm just going to start with this list, right? When I look at this list here, it may be a total round trip of probably not even 100 miles, but that round trip, by the way I'm going to do it, is going to take me all day, meaning that if I'm really saturating my market, then I want to stop and take down addresses and take pictures of distressed properties along the way. I want to knock on doors. You know, I want to have a flyer. Look, I have COVID-19. Can you see my flyer? COVID-19 Real Estate Rescue Team. Our real estate can assist you with all your real estate needs. We can buy or help to sell your property for top dollar. We offer solutions to your real estate needs. Do you or anyone you know need to sell a house? You know, and this one says, you know, sell your house fast, any area, any condition, so on and so forth. Then I've got some very specific to foreclosure, same kind of thing, but with foreclosures. And I got my website is darbuyshouses.com, but I have pointing to it, darstopsforeclosures.com. And sometimes I'll direct them there. But I'm starting with the list to go to the neighborhoods, and then I want to pull additional addresses that I'm going to skip trace. So my auction team consists of people that are going to drive in the field to drive properties and pull additional addresses for me. It also involves people who are sitting, like right now I've got 3 monitors here, and that we're going to constantly sit on top of the auctions. So, and so on and so forth. I'm a real estate broker, so I've got agents on my team also. I'm constantly looking for, you know, somebody that's going to help me. I know what I think the value is, and somebody I trust in the business, whether it's an investor or an agent, I'm going to say, what do you think the value is at 5916 Wellborn? Check it out for me. Give me your value. Give me your ARV. So those are some of the things, you know, that I have to have. My philosophy is create that $1 million model and keep a small percentage and build your dream team, you know, surround yourself with the best of the best of people who are better at something like my weakness. You know, I look at my weakness and I want that person whose strength is my weakness. Like I have an IT guy. He's amazing. One of my biggest weaknesses is IT, technology, right? I never used to use spreadsheets until I got into foreclosures. And now, you know, I know more about Excel than most people in my world, but I know nothing. You know, I know very little. I'm not an Excel person. I just know it enough to be database management, if you will, and how to take my numbers here and work through them. So what's your system? You know, what is it? You have to have a system. You have to, I did everything in the beginning. Before I could hire somebody to join my team, before I could have somebody do some things, I had to do it myself. So I knew what I needed and what to look out for. At the steps, when we go to the courthouse steps, I like to have no less than 2 people there. It's easy to miss a bid. Another part of your auction team needs to be your title examiners. You could Google, you know, title examiners in Louisiana, or title examiners, you know, real estate title examiners. You're only looking for a 1-person search, a 1-person exam. Here's the theory. If there's a mortgage on this property, and if it's being foreclosed, it means there is a mortgage on the property. If there's a loan on the property, the lender did their homework before they gave that loan. Now, nobody's perfect. There's always room for human error. But the reality is, in order for somebody, a company, to issue a title insurance policy for the lender and a title insurance policy for the owner, they have to have done a very thorough title search. So the past should have been done, right? All I'm concerned about right now is I just want to do a preliminary title search, and I categorize my title in cloudy, clear, or bad. I will buy anything that has a clear title. I will buy some things that have a cloudy title. And if it's a bad title, I will not buy it unless I understand the cost to rectify that bad title, or I understand that I may own that property forever because I can never convey clear title. So when it comes to foreclosures, now pre-foreclosure, you're dealing with the owner directly. You have to know how, or have somebody who does your title search, your title exams. Of course, when you buy properties, if you're in an attorney state or a title state, when you buy properties, somebody in that closing office is going to order a title exam. Make this note: never buy a house unless you can get an owner's title insurance policy. Because if you don't get an owner's title policy and there's something wrong with the title, you may lose that. You may have put all this money out and then you end up losing it. Or you may find that there's an outstanding lien on that title that you're going to be responsible for. So all of that is very, very important to find out before you ever get into the foreclosure side of the business. So that's a tough place. You know, again, so going back to, these are all the things you need to understand. Auction.com, once the auction numbers pick up again, I suspect they'll be back on the streets offering some training classes. And you want to get trained by them. You want to go to your courthouse, whatever state you're in, find out when the foreclosures are happening and go to the courthouse, inside or outside, depending on if it's judicial or non-judicial. The legal hours in our state are 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. on the steps. Every county, first Tuesday, every month, they are auctioning off properties, and each state is different. How do you pay for your property? If you go to the steps, you have to bring all your cash to close, money, cashier's checks, or you could bring greenbacks. You could bring cash. You shouldn't, but you could. That's at the courthouse steps. When you buy REOs, this is another good thing about REOs. Typically, you're looking at a 30-day closing, sometimes a little longer, but you just need to have a down payment, an earnest money, and that could be 5%, it could be 10%, or in the case of HUD homes, it's only $500 or $1,000. That's your earnest money. But you have to know how to play the game well, because if you're quoting to be a real estate investor and you're getting a hard money loan or you're paying cash, you may not have any contingencies that allow you to walk away from that contract. So another thing you want to do when we talked about, let me find these websites. When you go on these websites, look up a property. Let's see if I can, let's just see, give me a quick second here. Let's say that I'm going to go to auction.com. Can you see that on my screen? I think so, auction.com. And I'm already signed in. You can see, like, here's some of my saved assets. If I just pull one of these, this one says it ends in one day. But you want to pull these, right? So this one has an opening bid of 76,000, and it says that their estimated value is 173,000. This is why I like auction.com. They got a lot of good information. Now, do I trust their information? Not necessarily. The next thing I do is I'll take that. Let's say, for example, Control C, I'll take that and I'll go here. And a lot of times I want to look at the house. I go like this. I drive around and just look up and down the street. Okay, very nice. Double yellow line. That's a red flag for me. It's one red flag, but in that area, it's very common. I'm going to go to Zillow. This is the next thing I do. I go to Zillow, and a lot of times Zillow will have a Zestimate for you. Unfortunately, not always, but I use a lot of good information. They say that you could rent this house for $850. That's their Zillow estimate. I could see what property sold for over there. Let's see here. So they've changed a little bit, and sometimes when there is an auction currently, they take their Zestimate away, according to me. But so that's sometimes I will look and see. And then another thing is you can go here, you can look at realtor.com. If you find that same property in realtor.com, they gave an estimated value of 142.6. If that's the same house, I'm not sure. It could have changed address by the time I got there. 3797. Anyway, but there's that. And then down here, you have to know if there's a buyer's premium, because that's an extra cost you got to look for. Down here, look what they give. Property information report. Lots of good information for you. Estimated resale value, 109. What they say up here? 170 something. 173. So be careful when people tell you things. Don't just take their word for it. Go do your due diligence. Subject property location, 27 acres. So this is a unique situation. But they give you a lot of good information here. All the websites, they're all a little different. Unless it's red, here's title information. So it says here, so this title commitment was from March of last year. That's a little old. That doesn't work in today's world, but that's okay. What I'm looking for is to see, are there any issues on here? Are there any outstanding exceptions that they won't insure over? So that's the thing I'm looking for on the title. Exceptions. Rights or claims of parties in possession not shown, that's normal. Easements, that's normal. Encroachments, if there are any of these, those are not insured. That's normal. You just got to make sure you've got everything done so you look. But there's nothing here that's abnormal. I'm looking for, like, sometimes, so here I could see real estate taxes aren't covered from 2020, special exceptions. So you learn how to read this, but I don't even rely on my own knowledge for title explanations. I get experts on that side of it. And here's where I'm getting to, guys. This is what I want you to do. I want you to pull the purchase agreement. I want you to pull this closing addendum. Look how big this document is here, right here. Let's see if this is the one. This addendum. Okay, this one's only 8 pages. You got to read this. You got to know. And I print, I highlight, I take a red pen, I write all over it. Anytime you're going to sign a contract, You want to know what it says before you start getting into it. There's the purchase agreement. So that was an 8-page addendum that goes along with this purchase agreement. And theirs is 7 pages long. So you got to get to know what you're doing. In some cases, they may try to sell you a property with a quit claim deed. You got to know. You see what I'm saying? You got to know if you're buying it with a quit claim deed, it's a little bit dangerous if you haven't, if you don't know the process well enough. 2, if you haven't done your title work. So those are very important parts of playing auction. I hope that was helpful. Like I said, I know there's not a whole lot to do. ultimateforeclosureformula.com is my website. I mentioned I've got bonuses for you guys. Control C, I'm putting it back in here again. Feel free to go check me out. I've got a free ebook on there. If you want to start with some leads, if you want to put a deal in the deal portal, we'll help you. That's what we do. I love this. I'm everything foreclosure. So any other quick questions? I guess we only got 2 minutes left. Quick questions or comments I can help you with? Yay, you're welcome. Support at darbyshouses.com. Support at darbyshouses.com. If you've got some kind of skills to bring to the table and you want to be look at what we might be able to do together. I joint venture all the time. Just let me know. Let me know how I can help you guys. Look forward to seeing you around. Bye.